Today we're going to talk about a trucking company bankruptcy that shocked the world when it happened. Although, if you were watching it, it probably shouldn't have. And it was all because of fraud, greed, and basically scams from the highest level of executives there. And quite frankly, they pretty much got away with it. I'm talking about Celadon. Hey everybody, so it's been quite a while since I've done a history video, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know, a little bit burnt out on them. I decided to wait a little while and do one, and Celadon is one that has been mentioned to me many times. You know, I've done many about Yellow and how I feel that it was mismanagement that ruined that and many subsidiaries. I've also talked about Arrow Trucking, which is by far the most disturbing, greedy thing I've ever seen. But Celadon wasn't quite as bad, but it was still fraud. It still involved fraud with the CFO and the COO and the president of a subsidiary. So let's talk about how the company started. There's really not a whole lot about it. Celadon was founded in 1985 by Stephen Russell and Leonard Bennett. And they started with 50 trucks and 100 trailers, and their main business was to haul auto parts to a Chrysler plant in Mexico. At the time, they were one of the first companies to go into Mexico. Now, Stephen Russell, one of the founders, really loved art, and he decided to name the company Celadon after a style of Chinese pottery. Pretty interesting. Between 85, the company went public in 1994 and was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The company continued to grow, and at its peak, it had almost 4,000 drivers. In 2013, they acquired Landspan of Lakeland, Florida. And in 2015, they acquired Taylor Express of Hope Mills, North Carolina. They also acquired quite a few other companies along the way. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of other companies. Hinman, I don't even know what happened to Landspan. It doesn't really say what they did to Landspan, but I wouldn't mind doing a future story on them. So, Stephen Russell stepped down as CEO in 2012, and he appointed a CPA and longtime Celadon employee, Paul Will, as his successor. And Stephen Russell died in 2016. So he didn't actually see his, company that he built go down. But let's talk about what made the company go down and why the scam basically that brought it down. It's actually something I know a lot about, but we'll get to that. So one of Celadon's subsidiaries was Quality Truck Leasing, and that was led by President Danny Williams. And Quality Truck Leasing had expanded from 750 trucks to more than 11,000 between 2013 and 2016. Quite an expansion there. But in 2016, a bad used truck market made Celadon's trucks owned by Quality Truck Leasing worth almost nothing. Now remember 2016, so in 2016, people who were trading in 2014 truck or 2012 trucks, when they're keeping them for 4 years, these were 2012s. Remember, 2012 was a horrible year for trucks. Actually, like 10, 11, 12, I don't know, I had no 9. Mine had a DPF but didn't have DEF. But in 2012, they all had the DEF, and it was just going bad. So it made the truck market pretty bad. A lot of the problem was that they had a lot of 2012 International Pro Stars with the horrible, defective MaxxForce engine, probably the worst engine ever made. So in 2015, I bought a Pro Star, and mine had a Cummins. And in 2018, I decided to trade it in, I was just tired of when I bought the truck, I didn't realize, I thought it was pre-emissions. I thought it only had EGR, but it wasn't true. That had DPF and everything on it. And my options were kind of delete the truck, which I don't hate people that delete their trucks, but I was worried about the law cracking down on that, which it has over time. So when I traded in my truck, that's actually why I bought this Peterbilt. There were so many truck problems and engine problems at that time, you know, which a lot of them have been fixed, a lot of them haven't. But I went with the tried and true, tried and true Peterbilt with a cat engine. Peterbilts pretty much hold their value. Peterbilt and Kenworth will hold some value, though they do fluctuate with the market. But I also knew that the cat engine was, reliable and had been for a long time. But when I traded in that ProStar, they gave me $15,000 for it. That was 2009. And I said, come on, the market's not that bad. And they said, yeah, it is for ProStars. Nobody wants ProStars. I said, nobody wants ProStars. That's because of the Max Force engine. They said, that's right. I said, mine has a Cummins. I said, it doesn't really matter. I actually got rid of it for $15,000. I traded in, and that was only because it had brand new Michelin tires on it. So yeah, that was a lot of the problem. But here's the scheme that they came up with to get over this problem. So these 4-year-old ProStars were worth only $15,000 a piece, although Celadon had them valued at $60,000. So they were expecting to get $60,000. Instead, they were going to get $15,000. This is a problem that a lot of companies have. I know Fleetmaster had that. There was a couple other companies that bought up these Max Force that were supposed to be great engines and work. But they developed a scheme to cover it up. Celadon COO William Eric Meek, who goes by Eric Meek, and CFO Bobby Peevler, as well as Daniel Williams from Quality Truck Leasing, conspired with an Indy-based truck dealer. From June of 2016 to September 2016, Celadon and Quality traded 1,000 trucks to the dealer and got 600 newer but still used trucks in return. The dealer gave them inflated trade-in prices to conceal the tens of millions of dollars that they were losing, and they were concealing it from their shareholders. Here's a problem with that. Well, except for the concealing from the shareholders, the other problem is that this would violate the bank covenant that limited its debt to earning ratio, and they would lose their revolving lines of credit that they financed most of their operations through. To cover this up, they got the truck dealer to pay Celadon $25 million prior to the end of the quarter on September 30th. They returned the money on October 3rd. So basically they inflated basically the books showed that they were getting this $60,000, and the dealer gave them the money to make it look that way. And I guess they were going to try to cover it up in quarter 4. I don't know. It did say that they used part of the money to pay down its bank loans before the end of the quarter. Changes their debt to income ratio, even though they have $25 million that isn't theirs. And none of this was in their quarterly financial statements. So in May of 2017, COO Eric Meek resigned when an independent audit company discovered the scheme and said that the 2016 financial reports were fake. Basically, their report said these cannot be trusted. That's a problem. Not too long after that, CEO Paul Will announced his retirement. Apparently, he was not part of the scam. He retired in July of 2017. It didn't say who succeeded him. I probably could have looked it up, but I don't think it really mattered at this point. They were part of a sinking ship because they had just been warned that the New York Stock Exchange could be suspending them within the next 6 months. And it was actually April of 18 when they suspended the trading of Celadon stock. So after this, the SEC is involved. They don't have stock trade anymore. On April 25th, 2019, Celadon paid $42.2 million as a deferred prosecution agreement. Which means, and now this didn't block the individual executives. Basically, they were settling their case for all the fraud and fake records and fake, there was a whole list of what it was, but they paid $42.2 million. So now they just lost $42.2 million on that. Plus their books were off from years ago, from 2 years ago by $25 million. I don't know if that was ever made up or how that was done, but on December 5th, 2019, the SEC charged former COO Eric Meek and former CFO Bobby Peevler with accounting fraud. Well, the damage was done. In December 2019, Celadon claimed bankruptcy, and taking down with them was many subsidiaries and subsidiaries, including Hinman Transport, Jaguar Transport, and Quality Equipment. The only thing good that came out of it was a Taylor Express from New Hope, North Carolina. Hope Mills, North Carolina, was sold to White Willow Holdings, and from what I can see, they have a website up. It looks like they are still operating today. And so these guys were charged. When the bankruptcy went through, Celadon tried to do the right thing and get the drivers back. The problem is they'd already announced a bankruptcy, so Comdata had cut off their cards, and I guess Comdata turned their cards back on, but then cut them off again. Well, some guys were thousands of miles away from Indy, or I guess, if they were returning to other yards. Here's the other thing they did. They brought vans in to load drivers onto to take them to the Greyhound bus station, and they were buying the bus tickets to get them home. But their credit got cut off too. So a lot of the drivers had to fend for themselves to get home. The way I understand it, I believe all the drivers were paid, but I'm sure there's some former drivers that are watching this. Let me know. It says that the drivers were paid, or former employees were paid, but was it paid a percentage on what they were owed, or were you paid everything that was owed to you? So this isn't quite as bad as the Arrow story, which if you haven't seen the Arrow story yet, I will put it up here. But it's still pretty bad. They still had drivers stranded. There were still drivers that couldn't get back because they couldn't put fuel in the truck. Had to pay for their own bus tickets home. The other thing they did is that they locked everybody out. They padlocked all the doors. So when drivers got back in off the road to clean out their trucks, they had to wait outside in 40-degree weather. Which is weird. Why couldn't they open a space inside for them? Who knows? So, what happened to the two that were charged? Well, you might think that the guys that created a scheme, lied on books, cost about 4,000 people their jobs, and did all that, would have done some jail time, maybe even some probation, but the charges were dropped against them. Under an agreement that they do not admit guilt to anything, they will pay $50,000 apiece. Not to the shareholders that they screwed, I don't think. I think it just goes to the SEC. And they have to agree to not be a director or accountant or controller or something like that for any company for the next 3 years, and then they can reapply. And this happened last year, 2023. I didn't actually write down what month. But I did see that since leaving Celadon, Eric Meek has been the president of a company called Central Marketing Transport out of the Indy area. So, yeah, probably didn't affect him much. Probably makes 10 times that in a year, if not more. And that $50,000 was, like us paying $20. It's the way it happens a lot. Where's Darren Hardy at right now? President of Yellow when it went down. Where's all them other execs at? So it's a shame you guys lost your job. I hope all you guys, the ones who didn't retire after that, I hope you guys found good jobs out there. And I learned that some guys went to CFI. There's some other companies that were mentioned that had snatched up some of them drivers. So yeah, I guess that's the way it works. Another great company. The problem is, you know, they were a big company for a while, but they took down, I mean, Hinman Transport, it said, had been in business for 82 years, and I'm going to see if I can find enough info on them to do a story here in the future too. But just corporate, the difference between this and Arrow is that this was stupid management. This wasn't actually embezzlement, as Arrow involved embezzlement. So that was, I would say that was worse. And they actually didn't ever try to do the right thing. They just shut off fuel cards, closed the offices, and left drivers stranded all over the country. Although I did hear that there was quite a few of the Celadon drivers stranded. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna get back to doing some history videos. Like I said, I took a little bit of a break from it, but get back to doing some of them. And yeah, I appreciate you watching. You know, like and subscribe if you like the video. Comment. I do read all the comments. And if you don't want to comment publicly, you can email me at finchresources@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under the Trucking Resources name. I do a lot on Facebook, not a whole lot on Instagram. I keep thinking I'm going to, and then I don't know. I don't. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.